Hi everyone, I'm Moshe from Son of Oak Game Studio. I'm here with another devlog for our game in development, Legend in the Mist, a rustic fantasy game. And it's been a while, but we've been working very diligently, nose to the grindstone, in the cave, creator's cave, and we had a lot of things to share with you. So let's dive into what has been going on in the last couple of months. Got a bunch of things to show you today. So today's session is titled Subsystem Stew because really what I'm going to be talking about is a bunch of little subsystems that are going to take us from our core system, which we've already in a way published in our core engine in a game that came out this month, Otherscape, and we're very excited about it. You can go and check it out. But really, we want to take this core system and all its elements that we see here, tags and statuses, the flow, the basic loop of the game, which is establish action consequences, the single roll, all of the balancing of narrative and technical, all these great aspects, evolving characters, and ask the questions, how do we do rustic fantasy with? And this has a lot to do with the subsystems. We've playtested the system also in the rustic fantasy genre, and definitely creates a lot of excitement, a lot of action within a scene. But what about all the things that are happening around the scene that are important to this genre, and also elements that are unique to this genre, which are mainly what we talk about in the Kickstarter, being able to play characters of different levels, of different might levels. So a dragon and a hobbit, and we'll take a look at that as well today. So what we've been doing mostly for the past 2 months is like constructing those subsystems and starting to put them together in order to create a cohesive experience, but that also kind of covers all the aspects that you're expecting from an adventure or a journey in a rustic fantasy story. So in general, we didn't aspire to create a lot of different subsystems with their own rules. Actually, the opposite. We're trying to go for less rules, not so much text, more simple representations of everything, using the components that are already there, like tags and statuses and the role itself, and to create, more experiences that are fitting to the genre. So we're also going to go towards a visual design that's a little bit lower on text. So in a way, Otherscape, if you look at the books, and City of Mist, and Queers, for example, all of these games are kind of classic RPGs that are kind of with a lot of kind of dense, with a lot of explanations and a lot of examples. This book, we're going to try to have a different experience, an experience of more like reading a storybook, and something really simple with a lot of usable examples, but maybe not so much lengthy explanations. We'll show you more when we have that. We're kind of just exploring the visual style right now. And also our graphic design team is a little bit behind the dev team. The dev team has been working on the game, but the graphic design team has had a lot of work on Otherscape. So now they're kind of in the exploration phase, looking at herbals, which are like old botanical guides, as an inspiration for what this book is going to look like. Yeah, so this is what we're looking at. So let's take a look at some of the subsystems that we've been exploring. The first one and the most basic one is the backpack rules. So unlike Otherscape, which used a loadout system to track what your character kind of owns and what your character has access to, here we wanted to take a more simple stance, and we decided just to make the tags in your backpack story tags. So when you make something, or when you buy something, or when you rummage through some loot to find something, or your backpack, you create a story tag. It's really simple. It stays with you until it doesn't make any sense anymore in the story. So these are lasting tags that expire eventually, and you can usually, we're going to look at when they expire around camping, but they don't necessarily have to expire. This is the narrator's or MC's choice. And the idea here is to keep things super simple. If you make something, you have it. We just took out the whole idea of like having to load up these tags when you set out, and kept things super, super simple. Here, just for fun, you're looking at some suggestions for kind of like remodeling the character of Sorrowbomb, which appears in the Tinderbox demo. We have a couple of options, A and B. Let us know in the comments what you think and what you know, if you have a preference. So the backpack is going to be, of course, for creating all those little things like we have in the examples in the Tinderbox demo. This snapshot is taken from one of the characters that you can already play in the Tinderbox demo. And we're going to keep things pretty simple with that. But that was a decision that we made after looking at all the options for different representations of backpacks. Backpacks brings us to journeys. Journeys are something that it's really close to my heart. The idea, you know, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. It's no secret. I also love a lot of different genres. And in the rustic fantasy genre, you really do have those long journeys. And how do you do that around the table in a way that isn't boring or isn't too mechanical? And this is something that we've put quite a bit of energy into and thought. And one of the things we discovered is the traverse limit, which is the kind of like standard way right now in the engine to track how well, how fast or how well you go through a journey, is something that doesn't really work here. So if you don't know the system very well, limits are a great way to use. They're basically trackers. They're a great way to track progress on any kind of project. It could be a ritual, it could be a crafting project, it could be many things. And the players advance them by giving statuses on towards that limit. Whoops, we don't need that arrow. So the more statuses you give, the faster you get to the limit. The MC or the narrator can choose what the limit is going to be. So you could say that you only need a tier 3 status to complete the ritual, or that you need 5 tier status to complete the crafting. We also use the traverse limit, which is basically saying we're going to track the journey on a card. For games like City of Mist or Otherscape, City of Mist doesn't have a lot of travel, nor does Queers. Otherscape could have that if you're going out of the mega city. And in that case, it works because it's the thing with the limit. It just tests how much power and how able the characters are, the PCs are, in moving through this journey. The more tags you have, the more power, and you can finish it with 1 roll or 2 rolls. However, we didn't want to really do that in Legend in the Mist, where the journey is such a kind of it's almost like a feeling or an emotion that is conveyed through that. We see the heroes walk through the countryside, we see them cross a big waterfall or an ancient bridge, or they see a castle in the distance, things like that. Of course, there's camping, which we'll touch on in a minute. So all these little vignettes, we realized, are kind of a really important part of describing a journey in a game around the table. So how do we make this have the right feeling but still feel like a game, and touching on those short vignettes? So we devised an idea eventually, after going through a couple of options, that really takes out the journey role. There isn't just a role for the journey. The journey is really a kind of a challenge that has a lot of different vignettes inside of it. So we removed the limit. You no longer progress by rolling the journey roll. This had a lot of interesting possibilities, like you could fail in it, or you could have consequences, and you could come out hungry or with less, or tired or wounded from a journey. But making it just into a roll felt like it would be a little too mechanical for something like this. Instead, we created this sort of new type of challenge. It works the same as the other challenges. It works with threats and consequences. It has tags and so on. But instead of giving it a limit, we just decided that the narrator simply decides how many vignettes we're going to play through. If it's something, it's almost like deciding as a director, how important is it right now to show a long journey with everything that happens in it? Or do we just want to show a short journey? So maybe if it's short, I'm going to choose 2 or 3 vignettes. If it's long, maybe I'll do 6 vignettes, and it could take us a session just to go through all the things that happen on this journey. The vignettes are really a threat and a set of consequences for each one of those moments that can happen in a journey. And each one of them is played like a mini scene. So it doesn't limit what the players can do around that. That's another thing that we felt. If it was too hard coded into one role, players wanted to do things during those little journey moments, have a discussion, take an action. And if it was just kind of compressed into one role, there was no mechanical room for it. Instead, we decided to make them into tiny little scenes. And this really proved itself. For example, when one of our playtests, my character, I was playing the wise one, felt that the woods were being haunted. There was kind of a lot of threats around something following us, unnatural in the woods. So I just wanted to stop and take the action of crafting a little charm that would protect us should anything unnatural come out of the woods. And these kind of actions are some things that, they really give color to the journey. Conversations by the fireside or as people are walking, little things or dramatic things between the characters. For example, if you can picture the moment in The Lord of the Rings where they're walking on a snowy mountainside and Frodo tumbles down and the ring falls and then Boromir picks it up. That's a very powerful moment that is happening during a journey, and we want this to happen. And this is usually something that would come from the players. So we wanted to create a space for these things to happen. But at the same time, we wanted to give the narrator enough material to be able to just kind of breeze through a journey like that. So one of these landscapes or journeys, or it's these kind of different types of challenges, but still challenges, consists of general dangers. Maybe I can zoom in on this a little bit so you guys can see a little more in detail what's happening here. Of course, there are the tags. We're looking at a mountainside forest. There are the tags evergreen forest. It's sloped, which is a problem if you're trying to go up or down very fast. These are tags that will affect the character's actions. For better or for worse, right? Nature abounds. Maybe it's very easy to find food there. Then you have some general dangers, which are consequences that could happen at any point. Sometimes if you take an action, for example, if a player takes an action in a scene that isn't a direct continuation of one of the vignettes that we'll explore in a minute, then you could throw at them some of those general dangers. Of course, you can throw any one of the consequences at them. Just to give you an example, if someone stops to hunt for a while or to forage, or if someone decides to stop in the middle of a journey to have a deep, or intense conversation with one of their prisoners, like someone that the party has taken prisoner. So all of these things could go badly, and of course you need some general things that could happen in the mountainside forest or any landscape that we choose. Then we add 6 vignettes that you can just take one of them, all 6, any combination of them. You can take a few of them when you journey one part of the journey and then use the other ones. And of course you can make up your own, but this is just more to give the narrator the kind of mood of what kind of place the party is in or the companions are in. So we have a faded mountain trail, mossy ledge that they have to climb or go around, a pack of wolves, a patch of mushrooms, a waterfall and pool, and a fairy feast. So some kind of a celebration in the deep woods. Each one of those can be resolved very quickly. You don't have to go into a whole scene. It's sort of a mini scene in the sense that it has just one threat, and then you want to see if the players are able to address it. And really, what we're looking for is not how it complicates. Sorry, it's how it complicates things, as opposed to whether or not it completely stops the journey dead in its tracks. So each one of those threats is something for the companions to deal with, and maybe they just make a little roll, and maybe they fail, maybe they don't, maybe they have complications, and generally you move it along pretty quickly. Some of these things, like a pack of wolves, can evolve into a whole fight if they're not careful. So these are just examples. I'm sure you can freeze it and take a look at it. We won't dive too deep into it, but we really like what this is creating, and we're seeing like these as pages in the book where you can flick through several landscapes and just kind of very, very simply introduce a narrative journey into the game. We also are starting to look at this as a model for other types of journeys. And we've talked about maybe having a banquet or a tourney as a kind of a social journey that that the PCs have to navigate, or maybe even a crafting journey if you don't want to make it to just roll for it and fill up a tracker, which sometimes is a great solution because you want to test how much power the PCs have. But if you don't want to do that and you want to take something into a more narrative journey, then you could use this format. And we already intend to include quite a few journeys and landscapes in both books, whether it's the core book or the setting. Moving on, we also have camping. It's so important. It's such an important moment. And already the downtime rules from the engine provide quite a bit of options. Really, you can do anything. Whenever you can take an action, these action can really be anything. They could be cooking, healing, guarding, crafting, training, studying, quality time, just pondering about life. All these things that are beautiful in a rustic fantasy story. Of course, by the way, all the art that you see in this video is by Pinal, and all of it is completely original and is going to be included in the books. We're really excited about how Danielle has been able to bring this world to life, and there's so much more, but obviously we can't show everything right away. So going back to camping, we're thinking at the moment, this is the current solution that we have, that you can choose 2 out of these 3 options, and rest, camp action, and grow. And you are able to choose camp action twice. So rest is a narrative switch. Basically, once a character picks it, they will recover some of their statuses or expire some of their statuses. So if someone was a little bit stunned or bruised, maybe they can bandage themselves. It doesn't bother them anymore. It won't expire all statuses, right? So if you're, gravely wounded, maybe rest is just not going to be enough. Going to the other side, grow is quite similar narratively, to any other actions. But really what happens with grow is that you mark growth or you mark XP. We're going to look at that in a minute. That helps you grow your themes. You can only do that once per rest. But really all the other actions are quite similar to the way actions are resolved in the game by counting your power. But we are thinking at the moment that maybe you don't have to roll for camp actions. It's really just about your power. You're not really tested in a kind of a chance way. You're tested about what you know. The things you know how to do are the things you're going to be good at. So whenever you take a camp action, for example, cooking, if you have tags for cooking, you count them up, you get power, and then you just get that power to spend on any kind of effect if you want effects. Sometimes you could just, get the narrative outcome of it. So these are the 3 backpack journeys in camping. It's more about traveling. I can kind of take a step outside of that now and talk a little bit about what we've been doing with solo and GMless play. So this is still very, very hand wavy at this point. We're doing a lot of play testing. Um, and we're not ready to show anything specific, but we are already starting to kind of ask ourselves, how are things going to be done GMlessly on different levels? So first of all, we feel that challenges are already quite adapted for solo play. The fact that you have threats and consequences, narrative threats, and then consequences are quite easy to use. But we're asking ourselves how to make this more randomized or kind of like AI in the sense that something other than the whoever's playing is generating the threats and consequences. Of course, we're going to have oracles, general oracles for threats and consequences, but we want solo players to also be able to use these challenge profiles. So one of the things that we're going to look at is, are we able to sort of hide the consequences somehow? We're not sure it's going to be possible yet. Maybe a variation on these cards. Hide the consequences, so even if you do somehow pick a threat, you don't necessarily know what's going to come. Although in most cases, a threat does kind of give you an idea of what's coming. The other thing we looked at is randomizing these threats and consequences, but we did find that some of them are particularly like an entrance or an opening move, like a long shadow swims around in the murky water. That means that this challenge is coming up, but not necessarily what it does next. And some of them even have exit moves. We also noticed that it doesn't always make sense to do things just completely randomly. So what we're looking at now is dividing those actions into engage, gambit, and progress. 3 types of actions. Engages are the more direct actions. Gambits are little things that change the battlefield, and progress is trying to do things that promote what this challenge, the outcome that this challenge wants to achieve. So, for example, if they're conducting a ritual or if they are trying to convince you to do something. We're still working on that. Another one of our goals is that whatever we incorporate into the challenge profile will be almost invisible to people who are not playing solo, so that it doesn't get too much in the way. Of course, this is a graphic design challenge that we're playing with. Other things that we're doing for solo and GMless play, we want to also give you an oracle that will allow you to generate consequences that aren't from challenges. So did you get tired? Did you expend mana? Did you expose yourself to danger? And so on. What happens when your action generates consequences and maybe there isn't an active threat in the scene, or there is, but it's not the most interesting thing that could happen. And finally, we're doing a lot of research around how to generate a whole story and scenes GMlessly. And of course, we're going to have the classic adventure oracles, but we're also looking at maybe using journeys, the structure that we used before, to help you build a certain type of story with those vignettes. This is all still in development. I just wanted to give an update on that. And more to come later. Now I want to go to some of the systems that I'm super excited about, which starting with character evolution. So character evolution in the system classically had 2 options. You could lose a theme and then replace it if you didn't follow the theme's motivation, and you could grow organically by generating growth or XP, which leads, this is usually done by invoking your weakness tags, but there are other ways. Well, weakness tags or using the grow option in camp. But what that would generate is mostly XP. Well, XP that will use you, or will be used mostly to gain new tags or an improvement or special. So these are the 2 options that were already existing in the engine, but we really felt, after taking a deeper look at it, that in fantasy it does make sense to add an option of growing upwards, or really endeavoring towards something. So we decided to call the motivations on your themes a quest. It doesn't matter which theme it is; they're all a kind of a quest that you're on. And quests, if you ignore them, you are going to be marking abandon, which is decay, in the Tinderbox demo. And if you mark 3 abandon, you replace the theme with something else. Basically, you abandon the quest. It wasn't really what you wanted. It wasn't really you, or it isn't you at the moment, and you're transforming into something else. It's a very, very beautiful narrative moment, and kind of a moment of discovery. It could also be that, you know, something forces you from the outside to abandon your quest, and there's a lot of potential there. Growing with XP remains the same. We're keeping that as is, because that's kind of like the smaller growth, the less dramatic, the organic growth. I'm adding a new tag. I'm getting a new improvement. But we also added the possibility to mark a milestone. This is whenever you narratively reach a certain point in your journey, in your quest. Let's say that you want to be the best archer in Ravensholm, and you have a competition with all the other archers in Barleytown or something like that. Maybe the best archer in the Dales, and you have a competition in Barleytown and you win the competition. And it's amazing, and you check that milestone. You have 3 milestones, and after you check 3 milestones, you really, what you do is you evolve the theme. You turn it into a new theme type, often from a higher might. We're going to talk about might in a minute. So you're moving maybe from origin to adventure, or from adventure to greatness. And you get to keep some of the tags, maybe rename some of the tags, and kind of like level them up in a way, but in a narrative way. So, okay, I am no longer just a little archer from Ravensholm. I am the best archer in the Dales. That says something even outside of the Dales. And right, now I'm a part of the adventure sphere of things. I'm no longer just a little humble archer from Ravensholm. So milestones are a very narrative tool. We just wanted to add that option for people to kind of track their growth upwards. And that brings me to might, which before I dive into it, I really just love this art by Danielle. It's just, I love everything about it. It's so dramatic. So might. We talked a lot about how this game is going to allow you to have different power levels within the same group. And we crunched this quite a lot over the last 2 months. And we really, really wanted to get to the point where you can breezily, very, very easily, and very simply handle characters from different power levels. So when we talk about power levels, just to give you an example, we can talk about origin, which is, you know, the little people. It doesn't necessarily mean they're physically little. It could be just that, you know, they haven't really seen the world outside yet, or they haven't been exposed to it, or maybe they've seen it and given up on it. We have the adventure sphere, which are adventurers, people of note, remarkable people. And then we have the greatness sphere, which is real, and also all kinds of magical and things that are not, you know, maybe normal and ordinary. And then we have the sphere of greatness, which is, you know, includes mighty dragons, rulers, armies, archmages, and all these very, very powerful characters that can shape the world. Maybe there is even a level of cosmic. We don't kind of get into it right now because we want to focus on rustic fantasy. Although the engine will support all of these different genres that are and won't be necessarily locked on rustic fantasy. So what does that mean, these different might levels? What does it mean in the game? It was very important for us to make might a two-way street, you know, so that being mightier doesn't necessarily mean that you're a better character, because if it's just about leveling up, then of course I'm going to want to be the strongest character. So might is a two-way street. Mighty characters, or characters that are mightier than one another. Let's put it this way as it's written. Mightier characters can crush lowlier characters. They're just that much more mighty. So it doesn't matter what arena you're engaging in. If you are a court, at the royal court and you're the king, you can really bring your power to bear in the most, intense way. If you're an archmage and you're having a battle of magic, if you are a dragon and you're blowing fire on pretty much anything that isn't your size, you're just going to be very powerful and very destructive. On the flip side, lowlier characters in these stories often seem to have a better chance, first of all, of avoiding the attention of the mighty. So the lowborn servant can do things right under the nose of the mighty royals who have other things to worry about. And often these characters can also trick the mighty, especially if they get the mighty to come play on their turf. So this is like the polarity of might. And we have some examples here. A dragon can easily annihilate a farmer, while a farmer would find it hard to harm a dragon. A hobbit is so below the might of a dragon that it can stand something didn't end here. I guess what we're trying to say here is that scene from The Hobbit where Bilbo is having a conversation with the dragon and is almost, the dragon is half amused, half into it, but actually gets a little bit manipulated at some of the time. A hobbit is so below the might of the Dark Lord that it's hard for the Dark Lord to find the hobbit. So obviously we know the story again from Lord of the Rings. If someone is so powerful, how many times do you have like powerful Dark Lords sending their troops to find that one little person that has the one thing that they need, and of course the troops fumble, and that one little person many times is able to escape them. A monarch on their throne has much more power than a bastard, especially at the royal court. But a monarch who goes out in disguise to frolic with the lowborn is out of their depth. So these are situations where you can see might is going to push things one way or another. So we looked at a lot of solutions for might, but because we want to make it super, super simple, right now we are at a point where we're looking at this solution. When might differences come into play, the narrator can call an action either imperiled or favored, depending on the nature of the situation, giving the action +3 or -3 power. Now I'm going to go into the mechanical side in a minute, but really what it means is that when a dragon is, blowing fire at a farmer, that's going to be favored. When a farmer is trying to attack the dragon, it's going to be imperiled. So this is a kind of a manipulation on the scale rules from the engine that you can see in Otherscape, Queers, and City of Mist. And a more detailed version of this will be included for people who really want to get tactical with exact sizes and numbers and things like that. So the option is reserved. But, if you just want to run a narrative game, you can just say it's imperiled, it's favored, and we're also adding an option to say extremely imperiled and extremely favored with a +6 or -6. But it's really, really simple. And this was something I was really insistent on when we're trying to design this. We're still developing this. We're still not locked on this idea, but here's why we like this. The best thing about this idea is that it's super, super flexible. Just changing the power of actions connects very well with the rest of the system and means that players that have enough tags, or players that are willing to burn tags to get more power, or players that use the right setup and get a status to give them more power, will be able to push through these things and have very epic outcomes, very epic moments where they're really going against all odds and landing that one hit. However, it also really makes it very scary for someone, for example, from the origin level, fight someone from the adventure level, because you're at a constant -3. And also, this is something I haven't detailed here, is that the consequences that you get from such an encounter are larger by 3. So you could really get quashed very, very fast. We really enjoy this when we're running our playtest. The monsters felt scarier. On the flip side, characters that were from a higher power level really felt powerful. So a lot of games try to do this, and they're kind of wary in giving people different power levels, and we're not going to do that. We're actually going to make the Gandalf in your party be powerful and feel like they're Gandalf, but they're also going to be imperiled in situations where they kind of venture into places where they're not safe. And what I like about it the most is that there are multiple ways to resolve this, and that refers to some of the other ideas we have that I'm going to show in a minute. My main con against it is it's a numerical solution. It's not my favorite, but I'm warming up to it because of its simplicity and flexibility. But I really would love to hear everyone's comments about this later. Just to give you some context, some of the, and this is like we're having some scenes here of intermight encounters, maybe someone from the adventure sphere meeting someone from the greatness sphere, someone from origin meeting adventure, and here maybe an origin character killing someone who actually may not be dressed very, very affluently, but maybe it's the king. So this is something that I did want to highlight. It is possible to overcome might narratively. So if you're an assassin, or if you're just an angry person from a little village that's angry at the king, but you get somehow into the king's room, then the king does not have their might. That's one way of overriding might. Another thing is that strange creatures and monsters and anyone really from higher might will have on their challenge profiles certain vulnerabilities, narrative things you can do to bring them to your level. So for example, if you're talking to some kind of a fey creature or one of the children or creatures of Twilight, there may be a way, if you know their true name, or if you know they're susceptible to iron, or if you know that there's a certain place where they're weaker, that you can bring them to your level, and then your actions will no longer be imperiled in front of them. So we are weaving a lot of narrative ways to play this, not just mechanical ways. Going back to some of the other ideas that we had, we were looking at kind of a straight up solution. You burn a tag if you're acting outside of your might. You take consequences for acting outside of your might. Like instantly you take consequences. Maybe you have to sacrifice a theme for acting way outside of your might. Similarly to City of Mist, Stop Holding Back, or other Scapegoat in a Blaze. You add or remove a die if you act outside of your might. That was a really classy thing that we thought we would work. But looking at it from game design, just statistics point of view, it's not powerful enough. It doesn't give you that feeling. If you roll with a +4 and you roll one more die, the odds don't change dramatically enough. If you get a -3 power, yes, the odds change dramatically. Your effect changes dramatically, and you really feel like you're out of your depth. So that was a cool idea, but didn't really work. We really would love to hear your ideas about might. We still didn't lock anything about this system, even though we're getting there. My personal problem with all of these solutions were that they're very hardwired. The cost was so fixed that you couldn't really get creative with it. So if the rules say that you burn a tag every time you act outside of your might, but you don't have any more tags that you can burn or want to burn, you're locked into a corner. So instead we decided to change your power and make consequences bigger. But again, we're super looking forward to hearing what you guys have about might. Maybe we'll open a little feedback spot on the Discord for everybody to chime in. And this is it. These are all the systems we've been working on over the past 2 months. And the reason we're doing it in this way is because we really want to, let's change out of it. We really want to start locking in and finalizing, or not start, we really want to just finalize and lock in the system so we can finish the player rules chapter, share it with you. You can start playing, and then we'll turn to all the guides and all the content that we have promised in the 2 books. And some of this stuff has already been developed, and it's really, really cool. But the first thing we're going to put out there is the system itself. So this is why we're focused on it. This is why we're so quiet, head down, working on it. And we hope you like what you see. Please share any kind of feedback that you have in the comments. Share it with your friends. Tell people about this system that is kind of coming into play. And yeah, keep us in the loop. Come to the Discord, chat to us, and we will share more devlogs later on. Thank you for watching, and see you soon. Bye.